What knowledge might save your life one day? If a rhino is running towards you, wait until the last second then sidestep out of the way. Rhinos cannot make sudden turns and will give you a couple seconds head start to run in the other direction. Repeat as necessary. Far Cry trained me well for this. If you feel chronically unwell all the time and you get told there is nothing wrong with you by your doctor, that you are suffering purely mental health problems or hypochondria, don't give up pushing for answers unless you know subconsciously this is the case. Hypochondria is not as common as some physicians seem to think, and even if the problem was pathological or psychosomatic in nature, it is still a problem that needs dealing with. People know their own bodies and know when something is wrong. There is a vast expanse of medical conditions that are possible and very difficult to diagnose. Doctors may only deal with some rare conditions once in a career or not at all, and won't automatically go there when considering your symptoms. I was told I was a hypochondriac for 10 years and everything was blamed on lifestyle and mental health. I went from the youngest international shipping director in my sector to practically bedbound and in terrible health and distress over 2 months at 21, and was told nothing was wrong for the next 10 years. Turned out I had a rare disease called Cushing's, which was damaging my heart, atrophying my brain, causing central hormonal obesity, constant infections and damage to my bones, and destroying my quality of life. I had almost zero testosterone in my body and a dangerous amount of cortisol, stress hormone. It was left to get worse for a decade. Before the self-righteous lecture comment, this is not an indictment of the medical profession. These things are difficult and not all doctors are the same. They do a great job most of the time, but doctors are human like everyone else and this makes them fallible. But if I gave up and didn't keep pushing, I wouldn't be here today. If you ever use boiled linseed oil to treat wood, don't leave soaked rags lying in the trash. They oxidize, and after a few hours can self-combust. The best way to deal with them is to lay them flat on the concrete, or put them in a bucket of water. The heat will dissipate if you do this. Crumpling it up and doesn't allow the heat to dissipate and could make them combust. If you drive after being up for more than 17 hours, the level of your impairment is equal to legally being drunk. Don't drive while sleepy. If you ever fall, get pushed down from the platform onto the rails at a subway station, try to roll under the platform. Many stations have space there, like little overhang, for exactly that reason. Well, my country sure want people to die that way. They've got space under there but have blocked it up with a big metal fence. If you are ever bitten by a bat, raccoon, fox, or skunk, go directly to the hospital. There is no cure for rabies once it is fully onset. Out of all history, only 5 people survived rabies. EMT here. If you're ever choking on food in a public venue, do not go to the restroom to avoid causing a scene. Almost every death I've seen from people choking are found unconscious in a bathroom stall because they were too polite to seek help. I feel like if there's any situation in which it's okay to not be polite, it's when you're choking to death. If you're a pedestrian and crossing a street, if you can see the sun's reflection on the windshield of a car, there's a good chance the driver cannot see you. If your shadow points toward the car, same. If you're first in line at an intersection, look both ways before going when the light turns green. You never know when someone is going to run a red light. Unfortunately, I was the 3rd car in an intersection when this idiot girl ran the red light since she was looking at her phone. I still don't have my car back after 5 weeks. If you ever are kayaking and become pinned upside down, swim down deeper into the water to escape the kayak. You may not be able to flip it over. I'm currently in the car going in kayaking. Hopefully won't have to use this knowledge. When you go into a building, look for an exit that is not the one you used to come in. In an emergency, most people will head out their original exit, but you will head out of the exit less traveled, and it may make all the difference. 2 exits diverge in a building, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. If you fall into cold open water, resist the urge to swim and try to float until the onset of panic subsides. Once you have your breathing under control, you can then start to swim to safety. By doing this, you will not hyperventilate and avoid potentially drowning. To float, slowly lift your legs up, keep your arms out at surface and lean your head back. Yes, you will get water in your ears, just let it be. If you're ever charged by a moose, get behind a tree, They have about a 10-inch blind spot and they'll lose you. That's what ski patrol would always say when there were an increase in moose sightings on the mountain. They'd tell you to stay out of the trees when skiing. Unless a moose is running at you, then find trees, because unless you've got a steep hill or are already up to speed, the moose is probably faster than you think. Never use bleach and ammonia-based cleaning products at the same time in the same room. A combination of both their vapors creates chloramine vapor, which can kill you if inhaled. Check your cleaning supplies to see what's in them, especially toilet and tile cleaners. This is also why you don't use bleach to clean up cat urine. If you've been buried alive in a standard coffin, stay calm. If you are alive, you haven't been buried that long. Also, the dirt above you hasn't set yet. Most coffins are not built to last once buried and as a result have weak siding. So here is what you do. Pull your shirt over your head. You don't want to be swallowing dirt. Position yourself so you are as sideways in the coffin as possible with hands and feet pushing on the long sides. Push. You should be able to blow out one of the walls. Start crawling up. Do not panic. You may not find a grip immediately. Keep going until you make it out. Worst nightmare. If you have to get through a locked door, don't charge into it with your shoulder. Instead, kick it straight on next to the doorknob handle. This has a much better chance of breaking the lock. It's better to mule kick the door next to the lock instead of facing forward while you kick. It's safer for you and you can apply more better force that way. Also, do it with your back turned, a mule kick, to avoid falling headfirst when the door opens. If you call 911, always say where the problem is first, followed by the problem. If you happen to get cut off before you can say what the problem is, at least the dispatcher has a location to send an officer to check it out and advise if more police or fire is needed. Example: operator, 911, where is your emergency? You, help, I am being stabbed. Disconnect. Versus operator, 911, where is your emergency? You, 742 Evergreen Terrace. Help, I am. Disconnect. Location. 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 Always leave your itinerary with someone. If you meet strangers, that is, potential bad people, on the road, always let them know that you are in touch with friends and family and that they know exactly where you are. You become less attractive as a victim. Always let strangers know that you have a destination and are expected at a particular time. 2. Always let strangers know that you have a destination and are expected at a particular time. 2. This is really useful when traveling in areas where taxis tuk-tuks will try to bring you somewhere better. Just tell them you're meeting a friend and they shut up. When you're staying in a hotel, take the time to read the diagram on the back of the door showing where the emergency escape route is. Take your room key with you if you leave the room in an emergency, as you might need to get back. Have your shoes on when the flight you're on is landing or taking off. Statistically, that's when bad stuff happens and you don't want to be in bare feet for an evacuation. If someone is choking, ask them, are you choking? Bear with me. If they can answer you, they are not choking. If they can't, you can go straight to the Heimlich maneuver. If you're accidentally poisoned with methanol, ethanol is an effective treatment as medical help isn't immediately available. Don't get the drinks from the same place that poisoned you in the first place. If you are in danger or in need of help in a public place, it's almost always a bad idea to just yell help. It's more important to be specific. Pointing at someone and telling them to call 911 will be more effective. The bystander effect can be a real B sometimes. I tell my kids to break windows if someone is attacking them or the like. Yelling help may not get cops, breaking windows will. I'll gladly pay for windows to keep my kids safe. I can't replace my kids. If your car is going underwater, an electronic roll down button will work regardless of the water pressure outside the car, but a manual handle is much more difficult. You also won't be able to open the door. It's better to have something in the glove box, like an ice scraper, to break the glass with. Mythbusters did a whole thing on it. That episode saved a woman's life. She wrote to them to tell them and Adam Savage cried knowing he'd helped to save a life. If someone is trying to abduct you, fight back. Most abductors will just give up if they meet resistance. And whatever you do, don't let them take you to another location. You ain't taking ME to no secondary location. Never mix bleach and glass window cleaner. Ammonia. A and B equals C and D. Ammonia and bleach equals chlorine and death. When people say to take an aspirin to help during a heart attack, chew the pill. Don't swallow it whole. It gets absorbed much quicker. Whoa, I wouldn't have known that. Thanks. 120 people will get bowel cancer in their lifetime. You need some sort of screening starting at age 45-50 depending on your family history. Any blood in the stool needs to be checked out. Early cancers can be completely cured with keyhole surgery. You don't have to die of bowel cancer. In Australia, when you turn 50, the government starts sending you free testing kits every 2 years. If you have what looks like a small pimple or a spider bite and you see a red line streaking away from that area towards your body, go to an emergency room. You likely have a staph strep infection that is spreading through your lymphatic system or bloodstream and your body can go septic at any moment. Sepsis lethality is 40-60%. This happened to me earlier this year and I only knew how serious it was because of a post I read on Reddit years back. How to tie a bowline with one hand. If somebody throws you a rope, you have to tie it around you while holding onto it with one hand. A normal knot will come undone or tighten up around you, potentially smothering you, but a bowline won't. Learned this in the Boy Scouts probably 25 years ago. Haven't thought about it in probably 20 years. Just tried it, and can still do it. And it's a much faster method than the traditional bowline tying method. If you have to get out of a moving car, then put one foot down and take a step, don't just jump out. This will reduce your speed immensely. Sure, you will fall over, but at a much reduced speed. A stuntman told me this. If you've been carjacked and the carjacker tells you to just drive, take whatever chance you get to wreck. At minimum, you're getting emergency services involved, meaning it's more likely they'll be caught, and there's a chance you'll incapacitate or even kill the carjacker. Of course, there's also a chance that you might not survive, but if they're taking you to a second location, odds are you weren't going to come back anyway. You don't even need to wreck. I doubt carjackers put on their seat belts, and if they do, just push the release button before you up the speed, jam the brakes and watch that mother fly through the windscreen. Don't try to put out a grease fire with water. You must smother it. I have an ABC fire extinguisher in the kitchen and one by the outside grill. Everyone should have at least one in the house. If the tide suddenly goes out unexpectedly, run like you stole it, for higher ground. If you're alone and start choking with nobody around to give you the Heimlich, you can give yourself the Heimlich by using the back of a chair, or similar objects like the side arm of a couch or whatever. Forcefully throw your stomach over the back of the chair a few times, try to mimic the motion of the Heimlich. Push in above the belly button, then up, kind of like a J motion. I always try to remember this, but anytime I think I'm slightly choked, this logic goes out the window. When touching something electrical, use the back of your hand. Using your palm on, say, a live wire will cause your hand to grab it and you be unable to let go. As an electrician, just don't grab electrical things at all. Let me do it, instead. Carry lighter even if you don't smoke. Only problem with that is no matter how many lighters you carry, an hour later some voodoo witchcraft will happen and they'll vanish out of nowhere. Keep a 360 of your surroundings as you drive. Heck, period, when you're out and about, but especially while driving. I was at a four-way stop. My red light turns green. I looked left before I moved. There's a dude going 60 in a 30. The dude behind me starts honking and acting like "F you, what are you doing?" The speedster flashes by a moment or two into his fit, and I see him in my mirror act so apologetic, waving sorry and all that, thanking me cause he or I would have been fricked had I just not looked. I always try and do this. I never go right away if I'm the first person at a green light, since so many people run red lights. In Australia you can always make calls to 000 regardless of whether you have signal credit. Your mobile will use any available network to connect you. You will also connect to emergency services if you ring 911/999. I did not include all countries as I was not completely sure if it does work in all countries. And those people saying about the outback, Yes, your mobile won't work out there at all because there is frick all out there. If you are going to the outback, please make sure you are adequately prepared for an emergency, because even if by some miracle your call gets through, it would be hours before emergency services could get to you. In the US, this is also true of 911. If you are able to connect to any cell tower or Wi-Fi network from your phone, it doesn't matter if the phone even has a SIM, you're supposed to be able to contact 911. That water you're about to dive into might not be as deep as you think. Always just step in and swim down to check for depth, then jump. Wear a helmet, wear a seatbelt. It may not be cool, but you're more fragile than you led yourself to believe. I've lost 3 friends because of these. Don't be a statistic, please. There's someone that would miss you and think, I just wish they had put a helmet seatbelt on. There is no such thing as a fair fight. This is something my dad drilled into my head for years. You never know what the other person's mentality is going to be. If you get in a fight, they may be heck bent on killing you. They may have a hidden weapon you don't know about. Do anything and everything you can to survive. Kick out knees, gouge eyes, knee the groin, whatever it takes to know you'll survive. The old adage was, if you're in a fair fight, your tactics suck. If you're spinning out of control while driving, do not stare at a fixed object like a light pole or barrier. Instead, find something clear and free of debris like a ditch or field. You instinctively will steer the car wherever you are focused. 60% of the time, works every time. If your car suddenly accelerates beyond control and the brakes are unresponsive, shift the car into neutral and slowly apply the brakes. This situation happened to a family in CA some years ago. They had no idea what to do and tragically lost their lives. Corrected, stating that you should apply the emergency brake. Many have fairly pointed out that you should not apply the emergency brake as this will cause you to lock up. Dang, this happened to me when I was 17. Broke the accelerator on the entrance ramp. Had both feet on the brake and was going a steady 90 miles per hour. I called my dad and asked him what to do. He told me this exact thing. Saved my life, apparently. Really sad for this family, though. When you cut yourself as a kid, your parents always washed and cleaned the wound and put antiseptic on it before putting a plaster, band-aid, on it. They did it for a very good reason, and one should always treat every cut, no matter how superficial, with the same degree of care, because one should never frick around with sepsis. Maybe not your life, but everyone should have basic first aid CPR training if possible. My dad collapsed on Saturday morning when he got up to go to the toilet, and neither me or my mum know basic first aid or CPR. The ambulance took 8 minutes to arrive and we only live 4 streets away from the depot. Luckily he came to, but there was a point where he stopped breathing. If he continued to not breathe, 8 minutes would be too late. Please learn and hope you don't need it, instead of needing it and not knowing. If you can't do a pull-up, you probably won't have the strength to pull yourself up off a ledge, and that has stuck with me ever since. Yesterday someone posted a live-leak video of those people who parkour on high-rise buildings falling to their deaths. I'd watch it, but I watched some of them. Some of those people would do like 3 pull-ups before losing their grip. So it seems like if you can't do a pull-up where you pull yourself up to your waist, you may still be fricked. Direct pressure on bleeding is always the first step. On mobile, so no good link, but a Stop the Bleed class is a great way to learn more and practice things like applying a tourniquet. Search for one in your area, usually only an hour long or so. If you kill a bunch more will come to that specific area, so it is a good idea to leave from there. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.